Okay, so how does it happen? You know, a young, fresh-faced, teen idol, huge pop star, right? How does that transform into this?
Well, this major financial mogul. It's a pretty fascinating question, and that's exactly what we're diving into today. We're looking at the really surprising, kind of multifaceted journey of Justin Bieber's financial success. And for this deep dive, we're actually pulling insights from excerpts, pieces from Justin Bieber, the mogul's billions unveiled. It gives a pretty interesting peek behind the curtain, way beyond the stage lights.
Exactly. And our goal here really is to unpack the key pillars supporting his, empire, to understand the strategic choices, the big decisions that fueled his fortune, and maybe uncover some of those aha moments about how celebrity wealth works today, especially, how you stick around in this constantly changing industry.
Right. And just to give you a sense of scale, like right off the bat, as of mid-2025, his net worth, it's estimated somewhere between, get this, $200 million and $350 million. That's a huge range, obviously, but either end of that is, it's serious money, especially for someone who started out so young. What's your first take on that number?
It's incredibly impressive. And what strikes me immediately is, like you said, it's clearly not just album sales. Not anymore. That wide range, the $200 to $350 million, it kind of speaks to how complex these portfolios are now for major celebrities. We're talking music, chart toppers, absolutely. But also massive world tours, these really strategic, almost game-changing deals.
Right.
Like the catalog sale, and then, of course, his own business ventures. It's definitely not one-dimensional. And I think that's the real story we need to explore.
Okay, so let's try and break it down, pillar by pillar, maybe. First, the obvious foundation, his music. Since My World back in 2009, he's just consistently churned out hits, albums, reportedly sold over 150 million records globally. That puts him up there with the all-time bestsellers.
It does. And what's really fascinating about the music earnings now, compared to even, say, 15 years ago, is streaming. How platforms like Spotify, Apple Music, how they've just fundamentally changed and, frankly, amplified that income stream.
Yeah.
His huge back catalog isn't just sitting there, it's constantly generating revenue.
Right.
Like a steady drip long after a song's initial buzz.
Okay.
It's a kind of passive income that older artists just didn't have in the same way.
Good point. But even with streaming boosting things, sales alone don't get you to $300 million, right? So touring must be massive.
Oh, absolutely monumental, yeah.
He's known for these huge, sold-out world tours. They consistently rake in tens of millions year after year when he's on the road. Like, remember the Purpose World Tour? That was 2016-2017. Reportedly grossed over $250 million. Just think about that for a sec. $250 million from one tour. It's kind of hard to wrap your head around that scale of wealth, isn't it?
It really is.
Yeah.
And connecting that to the bigger picture, these live shows, even if he tours less frequently now, there's still a cornerstone. It's not just the ticket sales, the direct money. They're huge brand building exercises, right? They amplify everything else he does. It's almost like going from pop star to mogul means you have to completely relearn the game. It's less about chart position, more about the global economics of your entire operation.
Right, logistics, economics, the whole machine. Okay, so we've got the traditional stuff, music, tours. But then there's this other move, a really strategic one that feels very modern, the music catalog sale. This made huge headlines. What was the impact there? Because it feels significant for the whole industry, not just him.
Oh, hugely significant, yeah. That was December 2022. He sold his entire catalog. We're talking 291 songs, 6 albums, the whole lot to Hypnosis Songs Capital. And the reported number was just staggering, $200 million.
Wow.
Yeah. And what's key here isn't just the big check, though obviously that's nice. It fundamentally changed the conversation about how younger artists can monetize their life's work.
Yeah.
It basically said, hey, your entire body of work, your legacy up to this point, that's an asset you can sell. Securitize it. It provides massive, immediate cash, different kind of financial security. And it really opened the door for other artists to think, okay, what assets do I have? How can I diversify beyond just making the next record or going on tour?
That's a massive mental shift for artists, for sure. Okay, so beyond the music itself, the creation and the catalog, there are endorsements. Classic celebrity move, but still important. He's had tons, right? His own fashion line, Drew House collaborations, OPI nail polish way back when, Calvin Klein. These all add up. Millions over the years. But it feels like with him, maybe it's more than just cashing endorsement checks. Is there an entrepreneurial angle there too?
You're absolutely right. It raises that bigger point about modern celebrities.
Yeah.
Can you leverage your brand beyond just endorsing stuff and actually build something? Become an entrepreneur yourself. And Bieber has definitely shown that interest. Drew House, his clothing line, that's one thing. But he's also made strategic angel investments. Things like MoonPay, the crypto platform. And Wave, that virtual entertainment company. It shows he's diversifying into tech, into digital experiences, kind of cutting edge stuff. So the takeaway there, maybe for others listening, is you're not just renting out your image, you're potentially building equity, becoming a stakeholder.
Okay, so putting it all together, music, streaming, tours, that huge catalog sale, endorsements, these tech investments, how does it all weave together into his current financial standing? What does this portfolio tell us?
Well, it shows a clear trajectory of significant growth right from the early days. He built on that initial success consistently. Forbes, back in 2017, had his primary income from music around $83.5 million for the year. So it's been sustained. But, and this is where it gets interesting and maybe a bit surprising, despite the massive numbers we're talking about, the source material does point to reports of past financial challenges.
Wait, really? Financial challenges?
What?
With a net worth estimated in the hundreds of millions? That is surprising. What kind of challenges? How serious could they have been?
Yeah, it adds a layer, doesn't it? The source specifically mentions issues linked to the cancellation of his Justice Tour. There was even a documentary in 2025 suggesting that the huge catalog sale, the $200 million one we just talked about, was partly needed to address existing debts, to avoid, financial distress.
Wow.
It highlights something crucial. Even at that absolute peak of fame and wealth, running a massive global enterprise, it has huge costs, huge risks. Canceling a major tour like that, even if you're worth hundreds of millions on paper, can create very real cash flow problems, liquidity challenges. But clearly, the sale worked. That, combined with his other ventures, seems to have really solidified things again, turned a potential big problem into a very powerful financial pivot.
Okay, that makes sense. Risk and reward at a massive scale. And finally, we can't really talk about his financial picture without mentioning the other half of the equation now, right? Hailey Bieber. Their combined financial power is growing incredibly fast. Her brand, Rhode, that recent acquisition news was massive.
Oh, no, absolutely. It's a huge factor. Well, individual net worths are usually kept private. The reported acquisition of Rhode Skincare by ELF Beauty for reported $1 billion.
Oh, billion, yeah.
That just exponentially boosts their combined fortune. It really cements them as this major power couple, not just in entertainment, but in business too. It shows that incredible growth possible when you have two really strong personal brands merging, diversifying, building actual tangible billion-dollar assets. It's kind of a new model, moving beyond just entertainment into like a personal brand conglomerate.
So, pulling it all together then, what's the main takeaway from this deep dive into Bieber's empire?
It seems clear it's not just about the catchy songs anymore, right? It's really a story about a calculated mix. Music sales, yes, huge tours, but also these really smart, almost prescient business moves like the catalog sale and dipping his toes into fashion and to tech. It's exactly. The evolution from that fresh-faced kid to this, mogul figure is pretty remarkable. And while those reported financial bents related to the tour cancellation are surprising, they might have actually been the catalyst for that next big step. The catalog sale, even if it helped cover debts, ultimately locked in his financial standing. And, importantly, it set a precedent. It showed other young artists a powerful, strategic way to think about their long-term finances, their assets. It really was a masterclass in pivoting.
Which leads us perfectly into our final thought for you listening. Thinking about Justin and Hailey Bieber together, their combined financial clout, especially with that reported billion-dollar Rhode deal. What does that tell you about where celebrity influence is heading? How is wealth being generated beyond just the traditional stage or screen? Maybe think about how diversifying, stepping outside your primary talent, how that can lead to building a truly undeniable empire, not just, having a successful career.